Ladies and gentlemen, coming up right now, we've got a session that will put the spotlight on future of work. Our speaker is the Managing Director and R&D Head, Accenture Labs India, that is focused on areas like artificial intelligence, computational linguistics, NLP, conversational agents, software analytics, and software engineering of intelligent applications. He is a governing council member of Digital India IoT Center of Excellence and believes that as a software researcher, he has the ability to change the world. He is a technology mentor for social entrepreneurs and startups, including Ashoka Fellows. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it and welcome on stage our speaker, Mr. Sanjay Poddar.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me right till the end? Fantastic. So I think after the nice lunch, just please remember that audit never sleeps and auditor never sleeps. So you have to give me company. And as an incentive, if you listen to me carefully, you'll get some tips that will actually allow the auditor to sleep while audit doesn't go to sleep. So there will be no risk, no issues in your organization, but you can have a more peaceful life. So I am a technologist, I'm a scientist by profession. I lead Accenture Labs. It's one of the 7 labs we have around the world. My specialization is in the area of artificial intelligence, software engineering, building intelligence systems. So I am a bit far away from the world of auditors. But then, when I got a request to come and talk about the future of work or how technology is disrupting things and what happens to auditors, and for a brief moment, I started wearing the auditor's hat, and I thought, wow, this looks very interesting. This is one single profession that's going to change significantly. And I'm going to build upon that idea as I take you through my presentation today. For one, I know that probably this group is always very paranoid about risk. More than any profession, probably the auditors. I may be wrong, but I sense the auditors spend sleepless night about, okay, what's the risk? Hope we are having compliance, and we are not having any exposure. Hope the business is not going to get impacted, and hence audit never sleeps. Perfect. But then I also thought that the world is actually moving in a slightly different direction. Because one way to contain risk, to have more control, is to simplify things, is to make sure that everything is under control in your purview, in your 4 walls. I believe as an auditor you like that. I may be wrong, but as an auditor you'd like to be in control. You'd like everything to be in your 4 walls. And then that gives you a peace of mind. But as you will see in my presentation today, that the world is moving slightly in a different direction. The forces are opposed to what you'd like, right? But however, I will also argue that if you are able to harness the same forces that's pulling the world in a slightly different direction, you can actually manage those risks and compliance a lot better, and you can go to sleep without the organization having issues. Now, let's think about it, how such a thing can happen, right? That sounds win-win, isn't it? I am told that yesterday you had a session where some of the speakers did talk about the technology tsunamis that we are seeing every day. And I was also told that, Sanjay, it will be good if you can just spend a little bit time to make sure that the group is with you on what's really happening on the technology space. So the way we look at the technology tsunami, and I call it tsunami, for the simple reason is, I think most of us, or many of us in this room, how many of you saw the floppy disk? Have worked with the floppy disk? As I suspected, most of the people here, we used floppy disk at some part of our career. And just imagine what you have now in your pockets. Your cell phone has a lot more memory, a lot more RAM, a lot more computing power. In fact, some stories say they have more computing power than the Apollo craft that took man to the moon, right? And all this has happened in our lifetime at such a rapid pace. And that's a tsunami. Now, the interesting thing about this tsunami you will see is these technologies are coming to us more rapidly, number one. So the time difference between these technologies is reducing. The innovations are happening rapidly. The second point is the impact of these technologies, the way we live and work, is increasingly becoming much more than in the past, right? And the third thing to know is the big impact is not being created by one single technology. It is the combinatorial power of all these technologies that is disrupting the business. These technologies, blockchain, IoT, artificial intelligence, by their own self, they are very disruptive. But when you bring them all together, you can create new types of business, right? How many of us use Uber in Mumbai now? Can you just raise your hand? Many of us, right? And just imagine, it's a wonderful service, and it has been made possible because a lot of this development in this kind of technologies, which allow you to create this kind of platforms. There's a lot of artificial intelligence behind the scene. Uber, in fact, has one of the best AI team anywhere in the world. They recruit some of the best data scientists. So in terms of the waves, we all know about the mainframe era. Probably as an auditor, people were much more in control then. Then you had this whole era of the mobile phones. And what happened with the mobile phone is suddenly computing reached the nooks and corners of the world. People who could not afford a laptop or a computer could still afford a cell phone. And these cell phones have amazing processing power. And then you had this whole internet connectivity. And then, with the cell phone and the internet connectivity, people thought, why not centralize data in the cloud? And the cloud was born. And once the cloud was born, we started talking about big data and stuff like that. And then suddenly, all this beautiful research that happened 20 years back around artificial intelligence. But AI actually went through winter, called the famous AI winter, where it could never deliver on the promise. And people thought AI is useless. But with the ecosystem building up, you suddenly had tons of data in the cloud. You had huge computing power. And then a whole new breed of professionals started evolving, the data scientists. And then, I think now everyone I talk to, they talk about machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing. I don't know how much they understand, but there's a great deal of awareness. And that's what my lab and me, we spend most of the time with using those technologies, understanding them, researching on them, building some new applications on top of them. And these technologies are immensely powerful. In addition, you can talk about blockchain, for example. Very simple idea, a distributed ledger, but its time has come because blockchains need a lot of computing power, which is now available. So its time has come. In fact, there's a school of thought that blockchain will be even more disruptive than artificial intelligence, building the Internet of Trust. And I know as auditors you like the word trust. The Internet of Trust is going to be a big opportunity ahead for organizations. So I will not spend more time in this slide, but I think at a high level you can see how these technologies are evolving. And what we'll do in the next few minutes, we'll also see how these technologies are disrupting business. They are changing the nature of the business. And with that in mind, I would think they are changing your profession. What is expected out of you will change. So let's take a bit closer look. Everything about our world is changing. Your front desk, you have all this. In fact, one of our banks in India, they have a robot or a virtual agent. They just to do the first level of interactions with the customer. And this is happening all over the world. Organizations increasingly are using in the front office, in the help desk, they're using, that's Amelia for you. And we work a lot with IPsoft Amelia. We have deployed Amelia in a number of scenarios, especially like finance and accounting, procurement, So that's a virtual agent. And these virtual agents can learn, okay? So when you talk about these kind of systems, they are not like our old systems. The difference about these systems are, there are 4 elements that is different from our traditional IT software systems. They can sense the world. And you have this whole thing about sensors, right? They can sense the world. They can comprehend. You can actually talk to these systems in your natural language. I'm in my lab doing a lot of research on speech to text, text to speech, research on, now we are building agents that can talk in Bengali because we are deploying it in some villages in Bengal, okay? So they can talk to you. In future, for example, you'll have all this, the interactions will be conversational. So in fact, conversational commerce is being projected as one of the biggest opportunities, right? So front office, you will have all these agents. In fact, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that part. In your warehouse, in your factory floors, in your supply chain, even the way you are transported. We all heard about the driverless car. You will see these bots, robots, artificial intelligence, and they're coming to us very soon. This is not some sci-fi movie. They're going to be there tomorrow, kind of thing. And interestingly, what I'm going to talk about now is what we typically call as the Accenture Tech Vision. It's an annual exercise we do. We build upon the previous year's vision, and we kind of set a stage as to how the world is changing for our customers so that they can reflect on them and then do the right things. So one of the first trend in the vision, this was launched just last month, is AI is the new UI. And what it really means, it actually builds upon a previous vision of intelligent automation. So in intelligent automation, we said that automation is going to enter your organization, especially all your back office processes, your procurement, F&A, HR processes, everything. You will see a lot of automation, a lot of robotic process automation. A lot of those work which human beings typically do, you will see a lot of robotic process automation taking over. They are efficient. They can work 24/7. So if you are having a holiday season sales, you don't really need to get a bunch of more people to do invoice processing. They can work 24/7. They are fairly accurate. They're very accurate. And that was about the back office automation. But this year we are talking about AI is the new UI. And what this is all about is the fact that from the back office, AI is also coming into the front office. Chances are your customers are going to encounter in the future a bot that represents your company, a virtual agent that represents your company, maybe in the form of a help desk, maybe in the banks when they're trying to buy insurance or when they're trying to seek a loan, based on whatever your organization does. What you will see is artificial intelligence becomes the new digital persona of your company. There's a very high probability that your customers will be engaging with some AI bot or some virtual agent. And in my mind, I think the important part for you to know is how do you know that that virtual agent is doing the right thing? It is giving the right advice. It is not really scaring away your customer. It is not really driving away your customer. It is able to do dialogue, right? And by the way, these virtual agents can be of varying degree of complexity. Just don't go with one virtual agent. It can be an information virtual agent, just fetches data from some source and shows it to you. It can be more conversational type. It can do dialogue with you. It will remember the context of the dialogue with you. So you don't have to, it's not like a question and an answer. It's a series of discussions. It's able to remember all the context when it is talking to you. In the next level, it learns about you. It knows what kind of response is good for you based on your moods, for example. So if you are a customer calling help desk and you are extremely irritated, the way it will respond to you will be different than if you are in a very jovial mood, for example. And then these agents can be even more complex. They can learn. They can learn from every interactions. They can be very intelligent. So these virtual agents are going to be something we'll encounter a lot. Now, from an audit perspective, what I really started thinking about is interesting fact that today Amazon, 20% of Amazon's workforce is robots in some form or the other. And in general, this percentage is increasing year on year across industries. The number of bots, I don't know how many companies admit to it, but actually many organizations have started using bots for some part of their work. And this will only increase with time. So the question that I had in mind is, if I am an auditor, who do I audit? Because my workforce today is largely human beings. I have a point of accountability. If some things don't look right to me, I know whom to go and catch. If it is a bot, what do I do if he's going wrong? If he is paid more than what the invoice suggests, or if the bot is doing things which is not correct, or if there's a fraud built into the bot, do you as an auditor really have a skill today? And this is a very interesting area of research. Because these bots or AI systems are, in some sense, algorithms. They are the AI algorithms. And for some of you, I'll just digress a bit out of interest. Traditional computer science was about we human beings writing algorithms, right? I think some of you have background of computers, at least. You know that we write programs, programmers, and these programs fetch data, process that data, create some reports, outputs, do something, analysis. The AI world has turned it around completely. In the artificial intelligence world, one of the big differences, you don't write the algorithm. The computer writes the algorithm. You provide good quality data. The computer looks at the data, studies what should be the output over a period of time, and defines the algorithm, right? So a machine-driven algorithm, especially true for deep learning, if you have heard of the term. So if your machine is writing those algorithms, and deep learning, by the way, is almost like black magic. It works so well. How many of the auditors really have a skill to understand those algorithms? In fact, in many countries, I think including UK and all, there are legislation being passed that it's not enough for the AI algorithm or the bot to predict or prescribe something. For example, you are using a bot for, say, insurance, and it tells you, you buy so-and-so insurance. It's not enough. You have to also say, why are you prescribing that? And that's what we call the interpretability, right? We call it as interpretability. Why are you prescribing that? So artificial intelligence, the onus will be on them to also explain why a certain recommendation is being made, and that is being mandated by law in many countries, and that might be true maybe in India in future or wherever, right? But the question is, maybe as an auditor, you will have to think, maybe, that if part of the organization is bots, how do I read the mind of the bot? How do I audit the algorithm? And that is one fear I always have, because you should also train the bots, because your organization is not static. It changes from time to time. You send your employees for training. Will you retool, retrain your bots? And in my own experience working with bots has been the biggest new area of training in my mind is the bot-human interface. We are not used to working with bots, do we? We are not. We work with human beings. For us, bot is just another piece of software or hardware. And yesterday I was in one of the NASSCOM Foundation conference. I was listening to a speaker, and he mentioned that in the factory floor, 90% of the accidents that are happening of bots accidentally or robots accidentally injuring a human worker. Interestingly, those human workers have at least 5 years experience working on that floor. But despite that, they don't really know how to keep the safe distance. Because some things bot may not do very well is if you are stepping in their line of sight or line of action, you might get injured as well. So it can be whether it's the shop floor, it's your processing invoices. And I have personally done this work a lot. I have a bunch of guys who are specialists in processing invoices, and you have bots who are processing invoices. But you still need to define those interactions very well, because there will be days when something goes wrong. And that's when the human beings will have to come in and make sure you reboot the bots, or you make sure that the whole process takes up or carries on as intended, right? So in general, I think this whole world of human-bot interaction and more bots coming into the robots coming into the workforce, in my mind, will be an interesting area for auditors to think about what risk does it bring in. One good example I can quote, a recent example is, you must have read about one of those accidents of somebody driving a Tesla car. What really happened? Do you know what happened? The algorithm was not able to detect another big vehicle coming in because it was not trained. As I said, algorithms are written by the machine themselves. It might not have encountered such a scenario, so it was not trained. So it didn't know what to do. And it just went and banged into that vehicle, and the life was lost. Now, how will you, as an auditor, know that your systems are trained enough, that you are ready for prime time? I don't know. I'm not an auditor. I can leave it to you to think about those challenges. But in future, what's your compliance there? How do you know that your AI systems are adequately trained? They are ready for big time. That's going to be an interesting question. And there's a lot of questions around the ethical, legal, and societal dimensions. Now, these 3 words in the context of bot needs 1 hour of deliberation. There's a subject by themselves, and they're very interesting subjects, right? A lot of people have some very interesting questions about what will happen to jobs and bots and so on and so forth. What's the societal dimension? Is there some minimum salary all of us should be getting because bots are going to take over the world? What are the ethical dimensions if everything is a driverless car? And if a car is going to crash, how does it select the car against which it will crash? For some reason, maybe it will select the car where the claim will be minimum. You don't know. There will be a lot of such ethical, you're sharing data, the data is being used. I was talking to one of my friends who is a CIO of a big company, and he was telling me, when we did our data science project, we realized how good our products were. I said, yeah, that's good to know that your products are very good. Yeah, but that was a problem. I said, why? We were not getting any service revenues because we were just building 2 good products. So we had to, have a look at that data and said, that's the reason our revenues are not growing. Now, that's the ethical dimension, right? What do you do with that data? So moving on, I think we'll shift a bit to a different trend, and less of bots, but less of AI maybe. AI will still be there, but more on the power of, say, IoT, Internet of Things. Many of you have heard about Internet of Things, sensors. And what these technologies are really allowing you to do, they're allowing you to create platforms. And these platforms are like, a single access to multiple services. You can look at Uber as a platform. Uber is offering transportation to us, but Uber also provides you vaccines in the US, flu shot, or you can Uber Eat food, and what increasingly the world is observing that in today's world where personalized experience is so important, um, no organization can exist, survive, thrive on its own. You have to form an ecosystem with your vendors, sometimes with your competitors as well, with your customers. And in terms of this kind of ecosystem, you are able to then offer a very personalized service. And personalized service is turning out to be the single most important competitive differentiator and be in business. So forming ecosystem and platform is therefore very important. You have a lot of examples. You have cars that can predict your driving habits or how good a driver are you. And accordingly, your premium, your car insurance premium can be fixed. So here you can see an insurance company. We did a project where you can even start ordering from your car a pizza, and it's already based on your preference. It tracks when you arrive at the Pizza Hut, and the hot pizza is ready for you to just pick up and run away. So this kind of platforms are getting created where different kind of services, different companies from different industries, they're also coming together to create unique offering. So that's a platform economy. And then the question that I was asking myself, what does this mean to me if I was an auditor? Because traditionally, we are used to thinking more about our own organization. We may have a little bit vendors here and there, but here the play is much more than vendors, right? Here you are a part of a big chain, a platform. And what if customers are unhappy? Where did you drop the ball? How do you know that the various components or the providers in the platform are doing their job well? Who takes accountability for the overall service that the customer is getting? You have a lot of these platforms emerging, right? Connected home, right? You're setting up standards. There's a fight for standards. Who owns the customer? Who owns the data? What happens if things don't work as per plan, right? So suddenly what I feel, as an auditor, you may find it interesting, is a lot of the things are out of your comfort zone of the four walls, because you are actually traversing across organizations when you talk about platforms. So how do you contain the risk? How do you know that you're compliant? How do you predict what can go wrong? How do you prescribe to your leadership what they should be doing, right? So this ecosystem play is going to be a very big play, and all these ecosystem companies are growing very rapidly. And a lot of the insights that you will need, in fact, I was sitting at the corner in the previous session, and I was listening to some of this conversation, but all of the insights you will need are not going to be just data generated by human beings in some spreadsheet. There's going to be a lot of data. These data are being generated by sensors. I gave you examples of a friend of mine monitoring his production floor, or the car which kind of senses your driving habits. So all these data are from sensors. They're machine-generated data, and we also use the word dark data to mean that a lot of this data today is not being looked into, but they have a lot of insights. Are you ready to get those insights for your work, for your audit work, for understanding the risk, for understanding risk compliance, for advising your business leaders? I don't know, but this is coming, right? This is there. I won't say this is coming, this is there. We'll move on to the third trend, workforce marketplace. And again, a very, very interesting trend. In fact, during the lunch, I was chatting up with someone who said that, Earlier, I would always like to get the audit done internally. But nowadays, I find it is very difficult because the kind of skills you need is so varied that one guy cannot do it all. You again go to the whole idea of how do you outsource it? Because the amount of skills you need to do a proper audit, he was talking in the context of IT audit. But what is in general happening, whether you use the word crowdsourcing, a gig economy, or whatever, is increasingly organizations, they are not going to have too many employees. They are going to tap into the entire crowdsourcing marketplace. And in my mind, that works great because the feedback is very positive about crowdsourcing. Is one of the big trends now. Organizations will just have the core and will try to crowdsource based on their need, the right skill and scale. But there are some challenges which, as auditors, probably you would be interested to look into. And I'm reminded of, for example, one of the good examples is when Uber was introduced in India. We had this whole issue of the Uber service in Delhi, right? That was not at all reflecting Uber's culture, because in general Uber has a good level of service. But when you start using people who are not your employees, but your expectation is they are like your employees, how do you make sure that they have the same culture, they have the same business ethics, and they are representing you with the right way? So that's one of the big risks, right? And increasingly this is going to be bigger than what you see today. And the other one I often see is, and I feel it's a big, big risk, is the risk to your intellectual property. If all your employees are outside your four walls, your intellectual property is also outside your four walls. And when I interact with a lot of startups, I invariably see that some of them were working in some nice company doing some research, and then they just start on their own. That the entire research investment is gone with the employee, and he goes and starts something on his own. So it will be an interesting study to see how many of these startups actually originated in some large organization. Okay, because when you are doing more of this crowdsourcing, you do have a risk of how do you protect your IP. And that probably is of interest to auditors. The next trend is design for humans. And I did touch upon the fact that there's going to be virtual agents. But one way the virtual agents, so there are 2 points here when you say design for humans. Traditionally, we have been struggling to learn new technology. You have to know how to use it. You have to know how to use your cell phone. My mom is 70 years old. She still struggles with a smartphone. She says, you give me the feature phone, I can't use a smartphone. I just can't figure out what it is. But that's changing. What's going to happen very soon and very quick is, as I said, you will be able to converse with technology. How about getting into your room and tell your television, can you please switch on NDTV? Why do you need a remote? Those technologies exist. Why? And it's surprising that we are taking so long to just bring it. Why can't I just walk into my room and tell my television, show me NDTV or show me so-and-so movie? I don't need to know the remote control. Siri. These are the attempts by the companies to go in that direction, where why do you have to even type? Why can't you just talk? Natural language, that's what can you call your car out of your parking lot, say, hey, I'm moving, please come, pick me up. The world is going to change very rapidly with natural language, and this is what we say, design for humans. You don't have to learn any technology, the technology will learn about you. It will know how to respond to you. It will also know how to respond to your moods, your behaviors. Right? So that's the future. And then, why not have such a technology for auditors? right? In fact, one of the interesting research I have been doing for our internal audit was to create a bot that can help my internal auditor. And the bots can do many things that you cannot do, okay? With natural language processing, I can actually go through tons and tons of documents and read it and find out patterns of errors which you have seen in the past, patterns of risk you have seen in the past, which humanly is not possible. Maybe you are sampling today, I don't know, but whether structured data, unstructured data, text is possible today with the technology to just, and we have been doing a lot of similar systems, like we built a system for adverse drug reaction, going through tons of document to just see, is the drug causing any adverse reaction? No human being is reading it. The bot is reading it. The bot can read like humans. And if trained, it can show patterns. Say, hey, last time this thing happened, you had a risk. That guy over there is trying to do the same thing. Right? I think that is immensely useful. So natural language processing, machine learning, so it learns. You can train your system and say, look out for these things. It learns. Or you don't even have to tell them, look out for this. You say, I didn't like this thing happening. And it will create its algorithm. Remember its algorithm? It will create the algorithm that when this kind of things happen, these are the other surrounding things that happen. It just links the two. It learns, and next time it alerts you, right? So these things are going to be increasingly commonplace in everything we do. Why not for the auditors? The auditors will probably have this kind of technologies. I think I was reading some stats that about 30% of all the audits will actually be done by bots by 2025 or something like that. As a result, your audit obviously is going to be much more continuous and automated, which was humanly not possible before. So now it is possible. And more importantly, it is going to be able to tap into your dark data, okay? Not just sampling. So the dark data has tons of insights which today you're not looking into. And your data is going to explode compared to what you're looking at today. So you need technologies like that, yeah? We move on to the final trend of the tech vision we have this year, which is called the uncharted. And as the word uncharted means, it actually means things that it's very difficult to imagine what's going to happen. Because if you look at the last 10 years and all the big companies we talk about today, none of them existed 10 years back. And what is really happening is they are using the combinatorial power, which I showed in the first slide, to create new business models, new business offerings, right? And then they are seriously challenging the existing players, right? So maybe you observe adjacent market to see if this is the disruption in the adjacent market in a different industry. It is quite possible you'll see the disruption in your industry, okay? Let me talk about a few things that will be very interesting. Blockchains and smart contracts. If time permits, I'll play a small video on how we are building blockchain smart contracts and stuff like that for a social innovator, a startup called Akshay Patra. If many of you may be knowing about Akshay Patra, they feed 1.5 million children a day. And when I was talking to the CEO, the question was, how do you know the food is of the right quality? How do you know it reaches every school on time? How do you know the feedback coming about the timely delivery and quality is correct? What kind of controls you have there, right? There will be a lot of work needed on data privacy, because as I briefly spoke about data privacy, your customers will not forgive you if you use the data the wrong way, right? Homomorphic encryption is possible to now process and work with encrypted data. It needs a lot of computational power, but that is there. Maybe an interesting area is, in some cases, to simulate the risk scenarios with augmented reality, virtual reality, things which you cannot do today on paper, pen and paper. You can use some of these systems to really think about where things can feel, maybe in the physical world. Analyze dark data and sensor data for deeper insights. I think those are some of the areas where there may be a lot of value. You have to unlock that value. Okay, and then finally, as I understand, when you do all this, you can probably move a bit closer from your compliance-focused roles to be more of an advisor to the top leadership, right? Predicting the business performance, prescribing what should be done, and so on and so forth. So, since 2000, if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, 50% of them are no longer in existence. And remember, there was no AI, no blockchain, nothing. You can just imagine what's going to happen in the future now. The disruption will be much more profound, right? So it's really going to be a very interesting time to survive and thrive. And then, but auditors are going to look like this. You have a bright future. You're going to look really smart. You have these nice glasses with augmented reality, and you are going to see the kind of insights from the data which you cannot see today. Because you're going to be augmented, right? So your future is actually very bright. You will be more in need than ever before because businesses are actually becoming complex. And if you are able to turn these forces to your benefit, you are able to get those deep insights, you are able to simulate the environment, you are able to use blockchains, smart contracting, so that people are not misusing or there's a lot of trust and integrity in the system. Probably auditors can sleep. Audit will not sleep. Auditors can sleep at times with all these insights. Some of the recommended areas, cybersecurity, data analytics. I was talking to some folks during lunch. They said, most of our auditors are accountants. I think obviously it's very important for your profession. But then there will be a bit of reskilling required in many of these areas, right? So that you can be more effective in future. So with that, I do have some time for Q&A. I have a video. I don't know whether you'd like to see the video, but let me play the video. It's in a tech for good context. So just ignore the context because we are not talking about tech for good. But what I want to share with you is how businesses are transforming. Even a social innovator or a person in a social space. Can you help me here? Can you play this video? Oh, there you go.
Is the second most populous country in the world, with a population of over 1.2 billion people. It is also one of the fastest growing economies and has the youngest workforce in the world. But at the same time, India currently ranks a lowly 97 of 118 countries on the Global Hunger Index. Every year, billions are spent for combating malnutrition. Yet, every day, 3,000 children die in India due to hunger. Akshaya Patra, one of the world's largest NGOs, has been at the forefront of addressing this epidemic in India. Through the Tech for Good initiative by Accenture Labs, we act as force multipliers for organizations that work for the greater good of society. With this focus, we are helping Akshaya Patra expand its outreach and help them feed more children across the country.
Akshaya Patra is a strategic school meal program with a vision that no child in India will be deprived of education because of hunger. We are currently feeding 1.5 million children in over 13,000 schools in the country. Our country has a unique problem, though at one end we have growth happening in a big manner, but at the other end we have 30% of the world's malnourished children are based in India. So we are trying to tackle this so the child will get a healthy meal and come to school and get good education.
With its midday meal scheme in government schools and government-aided schools, Akshaya Patra has served over 2 billion meals since its operations began in the year 2000.
Mega Kitchen is a complex industrial environment, and we use the human-centered design to cut through the complexity and bring in diverse technologies like machine learning, IoT, blockchain, and enterprise mobility to address key friction points and make the technology disappear, resulting in a seamless cooking process and that is rapid, repeatable, and reliable. Our aim is simple: to help Akshaya Patra feed more children by enabling them and empowering them through the right set of technologies.
We certainly believe that technology can further help us in all the operations that we're doing in kitchen, in the fleet management, in the logistics, in the field operations, everywhere. So we certainly believe there are many areas which we can improve, because every area that we improve, all the efficiencies that we bring in to the operations will help us save money, and money means more children can be fed under this program.
By looking for delays, wastage, underutilization of equipment, errors, and a lack of real-time visibility, we identified areas in Akshaya Patra's operations, from sourcing to deployment, that can be further optimized, automated, and streamlined. We start by analyzing the daily demand for meals. A location-aware and machine intelligence system helps predict the demand requirement for each school each day. We then automate data collection and collation, enhancing its efficiency. Next, our solution aims to increase the efficiency of cooking more than 15 recipes. State-of-the-art IoT-based temperature monitoring reduces the cook-to-consumption time. It also saves valuable resources in the process for Akshaya Patra. Lastly, we worked on an essential part of Akshaya Patra's operations: invoicing and audits. Our solution is based on data trust, creating trust networks to ensure accurate reporting and invoicing. The information required for audits, like feedback from the school, is shared via blockchain, enabling a high degree of transparency with all the stakeholders.
We always talk about artificial intelligence, blockchain, IoT, but using these technologies to drive efficiencies, for Akshaya Patra, every paisa saved is 4,500 more meals. So we are running a unique pilot with Akshaya Patra, which will allow us to give 1 million more meals per year with the combinatorial power of all the latest technologies: AI, IoT, blockchain, and Industry 4.0. So this is the Akshaya Patra Tech for Good story.
Our three-pronged technology-led solution aims to help Akshaya Patra maximize their output so that they can not only realize their vision but exceed it. Our Tech for Good initiative is focused on doing more with less, extending cutting-edge technology solutions that are effective, efficient, and sustainable.
Okay, so you can ignore the context, but what was the reason I shared with you is even a social innovator, a startup in the country, you can see how they are trying to bring in blockchains. These are going to be very common in coming days. These are hopefully going to make the life of the auditors much easier, because for the first time, Akshaya Patra is able to tell with a reasonable amount of certainty that the food has reached, the quality was really good, and they're using blockchains. They're using IoT to make sure that the energy consumption is not too high, not too less, food is being. So it's a good example. A context is different, so ignore the context. But I wanted to share with you that world will change. All these technologies we are talking about will come out of the books, out of the PowerPoints very rapidly. And hopefully, you are all ready to be even more effective in the new world. So with that, I will close my session. If there are any Q&A, any questions, happy to take any questions now or even later. How much time do I have?
10 minutes, sir.
10 minutes?
Sanjay, I think maybe just wanted to kind of request you to share about Bob Kress and what do you do for internal audit of Accenture globally?
Yeah, could you please repeat that, workplace and?
No, I wanted you to speak about Bob Kress. How
Bob Kress, okay.
Bob Kress, yeah.
Okay.
He was the head of IT.
Yeah.
I guess he is a global internal auditor now.
Oh, yeah, okay, okay.
Number one. Number two, also like what you do for the internal audit department.
Understand. Okay, thank you so much. Bhaskar knows Bob, and he was earlier part of our internal IT organization. So in terms of his career, I know Bob when he was in the CIO organization, and he later on took the role in internal audit, and obviously that really helped him, I would say. But I had a good interaction. My team had a good interaction with Bob because I think I referred to the role of machine learning. How do you predict risk, right? You will have those tons of data. Humanly, it's not possible. You need to have a method in the madness. How do you build models, train those models, predict risk, predict patterns, and then you are able to then prescribe some actions, right? So that was a very interesting. In general, the lab has been working in the audit area for a number of different parts of the organization. There's also a lot of things we do in the area of software audits, software delivery audits, because we do a lot of delivery, right? We are a IT organization largely. We have a significant IT business. So for all of our projects that we do for our client, how do you ensure that those are happening as per plan? And we have auditors who really go into details, and they need to be supported with that class.
I think you're developing some bots, I guess.
A lot of bots, a lot of insights. In fact, good you kind of asked this question. One of the very interesting work that was done out of Dublin Lab is correlating events that happen within the four walls of your organization with events that are happening outside, because they do have an interplay. And many a times our view of the data is very narrow. So if you are auditing expenses, for example, if you see that there are some expenses which are outside the normal limits, is it possible for you to see, was there any event happening during that time that could have caused the expense to go up, right? I can tell you today, after this talk, I'm flying to Bangalore. My airfare is 3 times my usual airfare. My hotel cost is 3 times. Now, if an auditor tomorrow questions me why, somebody had the answer, right? And if you have a system that just shows you there's an air show going on in Bangalore, they won't call me up and say, Sanjay, can you explain why you spend 3 times the normal cost of travel? Right? So those are the kind of systems we have been researching and building, and they're very interesting. People love it because you can see the correlations of the big events closer to home, and able to see the big picture, which, in this room only one person said air show, because we don't know necessarily about everything, right? So those are some of the interesting things that can be done in the audit space. Yes.
I don't know whether it's a serious question, but we have been talking of this since morning, of disruptive economy, due to demonetization, and then you took us to digitization, which also is a disruptive, I don't know whether this kind of presentation before the PM, our Narendra Modi, he would have thought of digitization, all being disruptive.
I can tell you one thing. Our PM is the most digitally savvy person, you'll see, right? So I'm sure he knows about all this. He spends a lot of time in the Silicon Valley with the world leaders. So I'm sure this is nothing new to him. But in general, I think all these are the future. Whether you embrace it today or tomorrow, it's a different question altogether. Whether it was good for the country, bad for the country, I'm not an economist to comment on that. But in general, that's the way the world is moving. And I didn't really catch the essence of your question, but your point was, is PM Modi influenced by such presentations?
No. Where will it end? Because
Where will
Because
digitize?
because the algorithms that you are talking of, that how
Yeah.
then auditor will interpret those algorithms.
Yes.
So I was in a lighter vein getting carried away with your presentation. Ki whether we will be there to read the algorithm or whether the robots will read require us or
That's a good point. And if you see, I have covered both the points. In the AI is a new UI, I told about that your need to interpret algorithm. And in the design for humans, I said that you will have bots to help you do that. Because you can't do everything. You will have bots that will help you look into the algorithm. You will have a strange world where machines are working for the machines and trying to understand the other machines. So we just have to get used to this new world. And that was precisely the point when I said that these forces, if you can use it to your advantage, can actually make you pretty good.
so I can ask robot to prepare an algorithm for me and put it inside my body.
Yeah, it's not very far-fetched. If you have a bot, if you have a lot of intelligence system in your organization, you want interpretability. And as I said, these are being mandated by law. For example, in UK, by 2018, all the systems should have interpretability. You are not going to humanly sit together and look at lines of codes for interpretability. You will have means to do that. You will have maybe another bot to help you do that, because these are complex areas, right? So I'm sure you will have those kind of help. All you'll do is you open your phone and call somebody like a Siri or Siri equivalent and say, hey, what do you see here?
If I'm there in future.
Any other questions? Okay, fantastic. I think one strong belief is future will be interesting for all of us, right? Because every time there's a change, we all feel a bit apprehensive, but we also know that at the end of it, things look better. So I think we are just bracing up for a bold, interesting world. In last 20 years, we saw a lot. Next 20 years, we'll see even more. So with that, I'll close this, and best wishes to all the auditors in the room.
Thank you very much, and a warm round of applause to Mr. Sanjay Poddar. May I request Mr. S. Bhaskar, Chief Internal Auditor at Tata Capital Limited and Senior Vice President, Institute of Internal Auditors, India, to kindly present Mr. Poddar a token of appreciation and gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Bhaskar. Thank you, Mr. Poddar.